to not be screaming at me.
Sorry if I frightened you.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry about that. It was louder than I expected.
I'm sitting so close and my opera voice just really carries.
It really does. You've got a fantastic one.
That's what, $60,000 at Bard College will get you.
That for one semester?
That's 2 years of grad school.
Why Richard B?
Oh,
I think
I
you're
want a D. Okay.
Yeah.
No sudden movements.
Yeah. We're here. We can call the meeting to order. It's 5:59. Okay, maybe just wait like 30 seconds.
Terrific. Michael, will you help us get started here?
Sure. So at 6 o'clock on April 25th, this is the second meeting of the Public Works Board. Present are Chair Gary Kernhagen, Member George Conert, Jason Foster, David Marston, Michael Hoffman. Take it away.
Thank you. So for the agenda for today, do we have to put this into motion?
Now I don't know.
Guys, stop me if, error. I think the key here is we're looking at, the project manager position. We certainly want to get if you will, a debriefing or download from Michael, particularly in that regard, but moving forward in general. And I think we need to sit down, and also if we can tonight, start to discuss the other top priorities, if you will. In my mind, beyond the project manager, I think, getting an RFP together and then the inventory review and project area prioritization seems like the next top priorities. We also have to get into obviously the budget and assessment and so forth and so on. But does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah, the goal is seemingly to alleviate this consent order. So is that what you're thinking? You want to pursue the area?
As far as the project prioritization, yes.
I want to get it started and I'm thinking, the project area is truly the entire city.
Right.
And so it's up to us to define the priority hotspots, if you will.
Okay.
What do we tackle first? We have to take into a lot of factors. Season, do we want to be working on Warren Street in May and June when it's the high, traffic? Maybe that's the time we start focusing on some other street. I don't know, but that's for us to decide. I think.
Sure.
Yeah. Does it make sense? Let's start with the project manager. Michael, we'd love your thoughts.
Yeah, so I think after discussion last week, it seems like we've settled on the pathway to hiring an individual to hold that role rather than going to a firm. Just want to confirm that with the group here. Are there any objections to moving forward with that route?
I still have the same fear of how long it'll take. But
Yeah.
I don't know that that's an objection.
Right.
Yeah. Do you think it would be a lot faster to get somebody through a consultant?
Yeah, I think we have talked about bundling it with ADA coordinator,
Right.
which, has had some, positive response when we mentioned that. Then I think it's a complete role. If it's just a project manager, I'm not sure it's a complete role. I'm not sure that, and it's very seasonal. You mentioned seasonal. How much of this work is being done in January, right? What sidewalk work is being done in December and January? So if we're hiring just the project manager, is it a full year job, full-time job? Then it may make more sense to have a consultant. If we're lumping it as ADA coordinator, then maybe it is probably a full-time job.
Mhm.
It makes sense to me that it belongs with the ADA coordinator. Does it to you, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to think about this in that way because the ADA coordinator is specifically meant to be an existing staff member within the municipality rather than there being a specific ADA coordinator person, if that makes any sense, because the coordinator is meant to have some sort of level of authority within the organization in order to basically keep on track, be able to keep other staff members on task when it comes to accessibility issues within the entire city across different departments. So it does make a lot of sense to me to have this new staff member be that position. But I do hear what Jason is saying about it potentially being feeling more seasonal than it would be if the ADA coordinator position were on a different title. But yeah, no, I think it makes sense.
I mean, I know you're transitioning and maybe there's only so much, you can say whatever you want to say or
Yeah.
not say, but have you had discussions about if we weren't bringing this up as ADA coordinator, where that part of your position would go to? Would it just naturally go to your successor?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the interim, it will have to go to my successor. And the mayor would consider reappointing the ADA coordinator to this new hire, to the cyber program manager after they were hired.
So I sent out an email and I'll repeat it here so everyone can hear, but what you sent the ADA coordinator responsibilities, that felt like that title.
Mhm.
It felt more like that you be the ADA coordinator with the sidewalks as part of your job,
Mhm.
because that kind of fits under the umbrella more than vice versa.
Yeah.
But because we have to list the job.
Mhm.
It has to have some sort of meat or guidance to it. Some sort of framework to what is the position.
I got the sense that the framework, the guidance in terms of the position from the ADA side was very, very loose, and I don't, what I walked away with is it's okay, compliance, complaints, being, if you will, a subject matter expert for the city government, and then reviewing policy. Now in there, you certainly can fit the managing the project of the SID and things like that, but it's kind of loose,
Yeah, I agree.
Does this project manager for the SID, do they need to be technically inclined? Meaning understanding.
I don't know if they need, I would say technically inclined myself, but not necessarily technically educated. I don't know that, experience, I don't know that we need a degree in sidewalks.
Right.
I don't know that we need a project manager degree or we need or a technical degree of some kind, a civil engineer.
Mhm.
I don't think we need
Yeah.
that.
Ithaca's qualifications list a possession of a bachelor's degree in engineering, planning, architecture, landscape architecture, environmental studies, public administration, public policy, urban design, or a related field in a similar course curriculum, and 1 year of full-time paid project management experience or its part-time equivalent. So that is fairly broad. And it's only a bachelor's degree. It's not requiring, any advanced degrees in any of those fields.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, getting back to the point you made, I want to be clear about it. So the mayor will be looking to replace the assistant to the mayor's
Right.
office.
Yeah.
And he's open to having that person continue to be the ADA coordinator?
Where it will be, it's actually a federal requirement that it would be. Since we don't have another current staff member who would fit the ADA coordinator role, other than the mayor's aide.
Gotcha. Now, given that, could that person also take on the project management of the SID?
I would hesitate to do that because it would, if, for example, I were to remain in this role hypothetically, and I was asked to also then be this project manager, I would say no, just because of the
Too much.
year. It's too much responsibility for one position to hold, especially given that the ADA coordinator, and this is something now maybe to discuss with Crystal, is also a member of this board.
Oh, so you're here as
Right.
ADA coordinator,
Yeah.
not as mayor's aide.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess I knew that.
So
It's good to say.
Crystal, I don't know if that that introduces a conflict of interest if the manager of the sidewalk improvement district is also a member of the board.
Sounds like it.
Well, at a very minimum, obviously that, whoever's the ADA coordinator as a member wouldn't be able to vote on the project manager or on whatever compensation they're gonna be giving, because that's absolutely a conflict of interest. I do think it could get a little bit dicey. Having a voting member also, having a voting member have to review essentially their own work and recommendations to the board. I think that really does get a little bit dicey.
Okay,
Well, I guess there's our answer.
It's messy. That's not,
Yeah.
it's not. a
No, good.
quick
I'm
approach.
glad
I
you
don't
guys
think
are
I would do that at all. Yeah.
Yeah, I had not thought of that until like literally that moment, so.
So it brings back to, is the project manager position not only full-time, I can see it being full-time, but is it seasonal?
Mhm.
Unless, I guess it depends how aggressive we are, and
Yeah,
how aggressive we can be. We're somewhat, at the moment, financially encumbered. So,
I'm sorry, what do you mean by that? I'm sorry. Dave.
financially encumbered,
Yeah,
we only have so much money to spend at the moment,
oh, okay,
until we start, the assessment
Yeah,
starts
sure.
coming in.
Mhm.
all right.
And or we get additional grant
Or we,
funds.
yeah.
Dave,
Um,
I'm sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say, is there precedent for seasonal city employees?
I think it's a consultant.
Mhm.
I mean, on the front end, there's certainly enough work for a full-time, full-year position, I think. I think
Right.
once we're scaled up and we're executing on our plans, then I think question of
Or is it take?
enough work.
Yeah.
And the ADA coordinators have mandated position of
Yeah, since we're a municipality with 50 or more employees, we have to have an ADA coordinator.
okay.
Yeah, it's in the, they use.
Mhm.
So should we think in terms of our hiring an independent consultant that has project management experience? That we think can come in and work with all of the stakeholders and help us succeed?
I mean, I think they would have the, if you go to a consultant, I hope they have the credentials to be a project, they would have a lot of experience, hopefully.
Yeah, but that's, I'm thinking independent, meaning an individual who is, a student at Bard, is studying city infrastructure, whatever you wanna call it, and has some project management experience.
I would, in my mind, when I thought consultant, I thought Crawford and Associates, Craig Manning, they've got somebody on staff that has the experience to do this. Maybe they're not the most senior person, but
I mean, I think an individual consultant could exist. We haven't necessarily worked with anyone like that in this particular sphere. But like, for example, when we were shopping for grant writers a few years ago, that was an option. We could have gone with a consultant firm that was just one person who was like a one-person shop in grant writing, and
Yeah.
like that does exist, I'm sure. In the project management sphere.
Who issues? Does the project, say you bring a consultant on board, are they responsible for putting the contract together, for bidding out? the contract. Does the city have any role in that? Because the project manager, you're bringing in a consultant, you know, you can spend as much as you want or as little as you want.
Mhm.
And I'm concerned that, you know, you don't have. Here I was silly, me thinking that, oh, you could, maybe the person could do the project management during the busy times and do the ADA and the slack times, but clearly that's a conflict of interest. I'm not gonna go there, but I guess I'm curious, how much of a role does the consultant play in the process of getting the contract out?
Mhm.
And does the city have contracts with consultants now? And
Yeah.
how long are they typically lasting? A year, 2 years?
Many, we've had many multi-year contracts with a lot of, engineering firms. I would think that the program manager is ultimately not going to be the level of, engineering, have the level of engineering knowledge in order to completely put together a bid package for the work. I think that there would have to be an additional level of preparation involved with another firm anyway to create, if we were to go the hire a single person route.
I mean, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, what is the relationship with for the planning board's engineer? Is that, how that's contracted?
Yeah, that's contracted for like a set amount, basically for general support, and then they do individual agreements for each project. Basically, that are 10,000 each, and then that's charged to escrow.
Because it seems like we've got, on one hand, you've got a project manager and then you've got a program manager. So it's like, they're little different pieces of cloth, I think. I think a project manager is more like, yeah, we gotta finish the sidewalk in front of City Hall, and the program is like, yes, and then we go to, everybody else and we manage the program. So
Mhm.
We're gonna have some role in that, aren't we?
I'm sorry.
We're gonna still have some role in that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just wondering if you don't wanna keep someone close, like have a city quote unquote employee that does this for you, and whether they're full-time or part-time is like another variation, but that, cause every 2 years you're gonna have to renew this consultant contract and put it out to bid, and it'd be nice to have someone close, so you can like, hey, how we doing? Enjoy your time off when there's no sidewalk going on. Just throwing that as
Yeah.
a thought out there.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think we have a bit of consultant fatigue as a city organization. And I think we would want someone that can not only put these projects out to bid and do that, engage in that function, right? Because I think like we have capacity to sort of prioritize and think about this from a strategic perspective, which is sort of that program manager perspective, I think, as a board. And we need someone who can really say, okay, what are the operational logistics here? We need this, 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 and this. I'm gonna put this out to bid. They take care of all of that work.
I think you could find someone who could bid the project. We'd have to review it, and perhaps even DPW would have to review it, but.
Right.
Because we have our own city requirements, but I would think you could find someone at a consulting firm that could bid projects and execute projects.
What I'm hearing is that, one, there's an uncertainty in terms of how much time we need with this individual. There's a sense that upfront, we're gonna benefit from some knowledge versus just, an individual coming off the street, a consulting firm, to your point. And we can start with 9 months, 1 year, whatever duration we feel comfortable with. And we have that person be the point person, but I think what's coming up, to your point, is that we're going to be the project manager, the program managers. you know, and we're hoping that this project manager can take on as much as possible and do as much for us as possible, you know, but there's a little bit of an unknown, isn't it?
Can I put a budget spin on this? If we did hire a consultant, it seems obvious that the money would come from our pool of monies. If they were an employee, is there a method that they get, that their salary comes from our pool of money, or is it a different,
That was the intention when the law was drafted, yes.
that
Yeah.
somehow Heather takes care of it?
Yeah, I mean, it would, in my mind, it would function similarly to how Michelle Tullo is funded through the HLN grant that is administered by the HCDPA. So HCDPA holds a pot of money that was given to them from an anti-displacement grant. The HCDPA pays the city every quarter to reimburse for the expenses of our housing justice director. I think it would function similarly where the Southern Improvement District would pay the city for that staff position.
Then, and that's, can be, I mean, it's beyond their salary, right? There's
Right.
other expenses there.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts? So does that make sense? There's a need for a motion to, so what do we do around it? We would want to go out, some of the existing players that we've used in this sort of space. I don't know. these
Gary?
guys. Hello?
Crystal has, Gary, Crystal has her hand up.
Hey.
Sorry, I didn't want to just budge in. I was curious, and I'm not sure if you discussed this at the first meeting, but our law was drafted using the city of Ithaca's law as a template. Has the board looked at the program manager scope that the city of Ithaca's program uses?
Yeah, it's actually, they recently posted it to rehire for that position, so it's a fresh job description.
I saw that, and I was just thinking that when you're going out to your consultants, you're going to want to have a scope prepared ahead of time, because you're going to want to, especially if you're going to do third-party consultants and not have it be an employee, you're going to want to manage their costs. Anyone who's dealt with any of the engineering firms knows that you're going to want to manage their costs and be very clearly articulating what you're expecting of them. That was my only 2 cents. I wasn't sure if that was discussed at the last meeting. Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, and I think she makes a good point. We talked about it last week. We're like, what is even our scope of work in the first year, in the year 2, and year 3? We just say, here's the ADA assessment, the 230-page report, figure out how to execute, or do we say like, we know Front Street's dealt with by the grant.
Mhm.
We know this area is too high traffic. I think that's a great point, Gary. How do we frame that work before we can even, I think, flirt with potential?
Finding person.
Yeah.
So, and I always start very simplistically, so pardon me. What, I think it's our job to prioritize what work we want to get done when, have a sense of it. What are here's what we identify right now. This is an open-ended sort of thing. We bring this person on board. We work with them in putting together and work with the players out there in developing an RFP. And what are the questions we need to ask? We can sit down and get educated through that process, select a vendor. And again, we're looking for someone who's going to work with us and provide good communications that will work through the strategic manager. So that's the way I don't know if that answered your question.
Well, it doesn't, because I feel like we go to Crawford and we say, we need someone to help us conceptualize how to accomplish X. We don't have X outside of what our assessment report is. We don't really have a timeline. We have 500K, which I think could easily get spent in the first 3 months of conceptualizing with an independent contractor what the scope is. You know what I mean? I worry that we're eager to get someone to help us, but I don't know if we have the materials to say like, this is what we need you to help us work out. Is it, we need you to help us work out a bid for block 1 through 3 on Warren, done by September or something like that? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's my fear, is that we're eager to hire someone when we don't know what we're hiring for necessarily. And I'd hesitate that we take our time to codify what our plan is and then say very explicitly, to Crystal's point, this is what we need your help with. You need to build a bid for us that we can put out for RFP, or you need to help us design a 3-year phased plan to accomplish the first half of that ADA assessment or something like that. I think before I'm willing to vote to say like, let's entertain a contract, so to speak. Like, I feel like we have a ton of data collection to do. We have a ton of, I think. I'm belaboring the point at this point.
No, so I've done a little broad brush thinking about this too, and so we had the comprehensive plan is starting to circulate, and you look, and Michael sent out some, and Margaret sent out some, tax rolls. So there's somewhere around 2,500 parcels, right? I think we're in that range. There's an exclusion list, maybe it was around 100-ish exempted, right? Then, starting to pull out sliver lots and other, I guess that's all the exemptions. But starting to organize, like, I think R1 through R3 are a certain dollar amount that are gonna be assessed. So, I mean, maybe just starting to get a sense of the parcel list,
Yeah.
right? And like, how many of them are commercial properties? And then, yeah, we have to start, well, I mean, do we really want to start doing that, or is that what we want this person to be doing?
I mean, it's a great question. I feel like we have those skills, at least my perception of your guys. I don't know if we have the capacity, but I feel like, I think that's exactly what you're saying is exactly my point. Like, if we can say like, okay, we know, like, didn't you mention that we looked at, you had someone look at the ADA report and they were like, it's $5 million.
yeah, which is actually what this is.
Okay.
So I should have explained this earlier, but for the committee, and I'll add this to the meeting documents after this meeting. I just had thought of it like at 5:30 today to include this, is that we prepared an application to the Department of Transportation TAP program that was submitted in early January this year, that effectively estimated the total cost of replacing all of the entire DOJ mandated area, and that estimate cost was about 3 million. That this is of course, unfortunately, including part of the DRI area, so the actual number would come down once you take those numbers out. But this document details a basic estimate of, unit costs for each of the areas that were identified, which includes the 3rd and Warren to 18th South 3rd Street, 5th and Warren to the library, 6th and Warren to I forget what that is. Is that the post office? No. 6th and Warren.
6 is to Oakdale.
To Oakdale, correct, yeah. Then 7th and Warren to get access to the fire station, and 7th and Warren to Union for access to the police station. So, we do have, this is a rough estimate of what.
Yeah, this is really helpful.
Those costs would be, but of course it's for a replacement, and we have discussed that not every sidewalk in this area needs to be fully replaced.
Can I back up for a second and ask you guys about budget? Do we have any money? I mean, I hear you say, no, we have $500,000 at
Well,
most.
let me repeat what I got from Heather Campbell, the treasurer.
Okay,
There's been a loan from the general fund for this project of $500,000. It was initially assumed that we would get on the tax assessments, I don't want to use the wrong words, for 2025. We are not gonna make that, so it's gonna be 2026. So she said, don't spend your 500,000 right away because you'll have a gap where you won't start receiving money from the assessment.
I guess my question is, if I'm a contractor, I'm not bidding on. I wanna bid on a job that has money allocated. And it doesn't sound like we have money allocated.
We do,
No, we did.
we do.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
have.
so we have
They
him.
have a
Potential
potential,
spend 250,000 this year.
Okay.
Is
That
what
gets
we're
us started.
suggesting, yeah.
yeah, I
So
mean,
it's a start.
rough number.
Okay.
yeah.
No, it's not a loan. It's internal movement of money.
Yeah.
And it's just,
Okay.
yeah.
So it's
It's
fine.
not like a loan from the bank. The city
No, no, no.
is just,
It's front loading and then the assessments will pay it back.
So working with this as a base and the other information that we have, and given the fact that these numbers, the financials are based on the replacement.
Mhm.
And I think 80% of the work will be not replacement, at least. So is that the next step for us? And is that something that we want to take on, or is that something that, in my mind, I would bring in a vendor or two and say, work with me. Let's drill down, come back and tell me what you would propose to do to become ADA compliant.
Aren't they gonna take that report though and just say, okay, here it is, it's.
Well, no, because what we don't know is between area one as an example, which is not, never, area eight, 7th and Warren to 701 Union. That is taking into account replacement. They can come in and say, okay, we're gonna grind this and we're gonna fill that in and that's done. Is that right?
I think more that they're creating a scope of work.
Yeah.
To other contractors, or you're talking about going straight to contractors, not using a consultant to do that.
Yeah. You can do this, go straight to them, they know what they're doing.
If you want to,
We get 3 bids, we work off of one another. And you get knowledgeable real fast.
I'm not saying that I'm surprised talking about time. The amount of time that takes, that's what we're talking
For our participation, which would be required one way or the other.
about.
It's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you had someone that was your project manager, spent 8 hours a day on this, had a focus per day, like, where do you start? As we discussed the DOJ area, this map right here. Exclude DRI area. Will help us scope out this work and bid it.
But the other thing I mean, and I
And then
understand
pay
you guys
for more.
don't wanna have, replacement sounds dangerous, you guys are really good.
No, I think there's many places that will need to be replaced.
Yeah, cause I think it feels almost like a little bit like Itsy Bitsy Spider. It's, then you've gotta have someone to go and go, oh no, you missed this crack and you've gotta come over here.
We have a whole report. We have a whole report that was prepared, and there's photographs of every crack and every strip has a.
But now, who's gonna,
Done 4 years ago though.
are
So
you gonna hire a resident engineer to supervise that contract work?
That's what we're talking about.
yeah, I mean, if
Is
that's,
that part of the project consultant that you're gonna bring on board, or is that gonna be in-house?
That's the whole question.
that's the whole big question. I think we haven't settled
So I
on
guess
yet.
that's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
is that maybe you wanna think about what's cheaper in the long run for us to itsy bitsy spider. Seems like it's cheaper, but maybe it's faster just to replace and just boom, gone. It's gone. You decide on an area, you replace it, and it's complete.
You said how much trouble we've had with this disruption.
Oh, with more, well, yeah, that's National Grid there.
Yeah, you can imagine replacing every
It's
side.
a good point.
Yeah.
It might be, in the long run, it might
In
be
this
cheaper
town, yeah.
and better to just replace it.
Just replacing, especially in terms of time. It's a short window of work up in here in Hudson. Oh my God, it's like, as soon as the sun comes out, everybody's, let's build. And, so you don't have much time. So guys, to get that, to do repairs with concrete, it's very temperature sensitive. Silica mixes, it's all great in the lab, but
The cost difference, I think, is enormous.
I don't know, you'd be surprised at how expensive these patching and repair kits are. They are not cheap.
Well, then that ought to be a question in our RFP. Let's be open to, we want a cost-effective way to move forward. And, this is not unreasonable to ask. And yeah, I'd much rather a project manager, but, I'm open to begin conversations with people that can help us formulate. And maybe even we can find RFPs that are out there. But I just want to, to Dave's point, I don't want to rush to your, and we don't know where we're rushing to. But it seems like we have the inventory list. We have a prioritization.
Well, we talked about prioritization. Yes, DOJ's given us a prioritization.
Yeah, and that needs to be our primary focus.
I think.
Yeah.
Quick question as well, sorry to pepper you guys, does Rob Perry, is he able to make any kind of contributions to things like removals, unclassified, this kind of thing?
It costs money. He doesn't have.
Well, yeah, he does gotta pay his guys, I understand. But it can be helpful instead of the contractor having to assume some of these. Does the city save any money by having in-house work done? As part of, any,
You need a complete scope. You know what I mean? You need someone to complete a complete scope. And it gets really muddy, I think. I think that gets really muddy.
That has to be budgeted into Rob's budget.
Yeah.
And he knows where he's spending his money for the rest of the year already, kind of
Yeah.
thing. So adding something on top of, is, no, I think we need to manage it with the budget that we got.
That's what this money's for.
I mean, I think that there could be some collaboration on some very small things, like if there were removal of signposts or something like that, that can be very easily done by DPW to help.
But
With
I'm
the scope
gonna
of work.
plan on
But
them demoing every sidewalk and then someone else.
Okay, so we know what our priority is. We have an inventory of sidewalks that goes back 4 years.
Mhm.
So our next steps, besides getting a project manager in here, what's our next steps around that?
That's where we started this.
yeah.
Here we are back.
Here we are back.
Which is good. No, now maybe, do we have a better sense of what we're looking for now?
And could we say it that way? We are looking for project manager to help us scope through using the report that's been made and maybe double checking things. From Second Street, up Warren, off Third, off Sixth, off Fifth, off Seventh. And that's where we're starting. And we're gonna try, and we're gonna get their help, and we're gonna try to get started on that section. And they can help write we would want someone who can help write an RFI. And we can discuss with them and their expertise, so we can start doing some crunching of numbers about replacement versus repair. I think it's repair, but it's, that's where I go forward, not an individual. And that's where we can start. And between the consulting fees and that much work, the money's gonna be gone.
Yes.
Right, that's what I'm worried about.
Because the other thing,
But, I mean,
Yeah.
You know, that's what's gotta, we gotta go through that,
Right, but once
just
we-
not unnecessarily.
But once we start knowing what those numbers really are, if it's 450, we talk to the politicians about getting more. We shift more money.
So did I hear in your scenario there, we want to go out and get a consultant to begin with? To help us with this?
I think so. I personally, I'm Commissioner of Public Works, and I'm doing other things besides this
Right,
as a volunteer.
right.
So, I don't have the time.
Right.
To do what you're talking about.
Right.
And I think at some point, someone needs to be spending, a good portion of their week on this to make good progress.
Can I be devil's advocate just for the sake of conversation? Isn't that what this is? Like area 4, 325 feet of sidewalk, it's got a list of all the items, all the costs, the quantities. It's a survey area from the report. It's,
You could
the
have.
cheapest of any of those areas, and it's still nearly 200 grand. My concern is we bring someone in, they put together something not dissimilar to this. They take our ADA report, they phase out 8 areas. They scope generally, whatever the prevailing cost is for these types of things. They can't vary that much. The replacement and the fix, that varies, but then we have that document. And then we do what this did. We ask for people to price it.
No, but this will be bids. I think what they're in, this is not gonna be a study. We give them a scope.
This is not a study, right?
Yeah, no, this is an estimate for our.
It's an estimate for.
We could use that to get pricing from 3 different vendors.
Yeah, I think this can support the scope of work that needs to be developed for the bid.
Right,
Yeah, but the generating that bid is still a step that needs to be done by someone we hire.
right. So to bounce off what you're saying.
Yeah.
Is how it's different is then we go send it out to bid, we get 3 bids,
Mhm.
they come back, they're too much money. We either go get more money or you say one of them, we like your bid the best. How would you spread that out so that we can spend X number of dollars now
Yeah.
and then X number of dollars next year?
And that can work for them too. I mean, that feeds into, right, utilization, I know what work I'm doing next year. I love that.
Right,
It's like a requirements contract, it kind of goes.
But that's the difference, I think.
I'm gonna be
Yeah.
doing these items for the next 3 years or whatever. Yeah.
What do we think someone, to jump off what you're saying, which I think is a really great way of framing it, that doing just that, what you just outlined, what does that cost? Do we even,
I have no idea.
That's a great question.
I don't either.
Michael's the only one here who's probably dealt with consultants, but maybe Crystal and Tom, but,
30% of problem.
is that something that we could start rough conversations with?
Yes,
Right, like
why not?
go to Creighton Manning and say, this is what we're talking
Yeah.
about,
Yeah,
We can
how does
Yeah.
it work?
get a quote from them, basically.
Right.
Say, yeah, I would estimate probably in the 40 to 50,000. If we were gonna go to a firm
Yeah.
if you were doing like 4 months, 5 months.
Okay, so 80K, and that would get us the first bid documents that we put out for.
Yeah.
Right. And however we determine what. If it's a 5-year, like, yes, you're bidding on a multi-year phase project, we have a commitment of the first year. I mean, can we do that?
That's a great question. I mean, personally,
Should we say we have the money for phase 1? If we select you as our vendor
Yeah.
partner, we,
I think so.
yes, you can.
because we had 2 years to to make this money work, right?
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
looking at Tom's face, I'm thinking like, he's gonna say, don't worry about the money, solve the problem first. We'll figure out the money, but
Well, I think you're right. I think we can begin with conversations. And, and you know the names, I would be happy to sit with you to have those
I've
conversations.
just picked them up as we've gone along, yeah, we can find the names.
Yeah, easy enough.
So the deliverable we're looking for is what we're putting out to bid.
I would say, yeah, the first one would
Formalized.
be an RFI and then managing of the contract.
If once selected, then that we extend your contract to manage the implementation of a selected vendor. Okay.
How did these guys get these items derived?
They based this off of the 21 ADA, report.
Gotcha.
And then,
They-
then
they
unit
went-
pricing.
Yeah, they went through the itemization that's in that report and basically estimated the cubic yard of square footage off of that.
Okay, so we'll have conversations and report back to the board?
Well, so when you say we'll have conversations, we go meet with people? Or,
I think that's best. Yes, and I'm not looking to limit it. If George, you want to get involved, you know, not that we want to bring the whole board with us, but.
I'm curious too, does Hudson have a passing of consultant contracts that they've done in the past? Is there a list of approved vendors that you can be a starting point for?
Yeah, so there's, we hesitate to like have a list of recommended vendors, but we do have people who we have worked with who we would very easily be able to go to get an idea of cost for this particular report. So I imagine that's who Jason is thinking of.
well, a lot of consultants also work for the people who apply to the planning board, right? You
Right.
see them around.
Yes.
Gotcha.
But to your point, I think it's a sore spot in the public discourse around the city's heavy reliance on a predictable set of players to do the business that the city seeks to do. And I think we're going, as the information around this board and the fact that the citizens have another fee, which will be applied, we have some, I think we do have a perception that we need to manage as a board.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we need to be tight. I mean, when the bill comes, people are gonna be like.
Yes, I mean, even floating this with neighbors, they're none too pleased.
We're gonna have to communicate very well, whether we like it or not, but that's okay, you know, that's part of our job. And you know what, whoever we pick will have good, solid reasons as to why they were picked,
Absolutely.
period, okay? You know, that's for sure. And but listen, okay, so I think we've accomplished a lot. What, do we need a motion that will go off and have a conversation?
No,
with-
I don't,
We don't need to do, which we will do. I need to have, a date for our next meeting. And then, Crystal, thank you for hanging out. You know, you were very involved with the making of this law. And I'd just like to get your thoughts and comments and maybe areas that we need to be focusing on. And if I said something that's illegal, we need to know that too.
I actually was gonna comment on that. So when you talked about meeting with consultants and you didn't want to limit anyone, it could even be the whole board. No, it will not be the whole board unless that's noticed as an actual public meeting then. Because this is considered a public board. So you're gonna have to do something under a quorum if you're actually going to meet with consultants, prospective consultants to talk about it. The other part too is, and you all may know this already, but one of the standard ways after you start having these conversations would be to prepare essentially a scope document for if you're going down the consultant route. Short letter, bullet pointing, what you're looking for from them. If you're looking for possibly, a scope that could include them going through and preparing a scope for bid, putting together bid documents, and possibly even putting in a contract. you would put that in writing to, put it in a letter, itemize, that you want separate costs for each one, and then you can send it out to the, firms that you're planning on using, and they'll provide you back a written, estimate for each item to compare. That might be a good solution too, after you have some of these initial conversations, so you can compare which consultants are offering what at what rates. That was, that was my 2 cents on that. But if you're going to be meeting with them, you're not going to do it as a whole board. You're going to do it with under a quorum.
Good. Thank you. Dates. Do we want to set a day each month?
I mean, it seems like you don't have to go off of me, but it seems like the Thursdays appear to be working for us, and they are generally available.
Yeah.
On the city's calendar.
I just responded, I was unsure, I'm tentative for the 23rd, but there's Zoom, right? We're online, so I just may not be in Hudson, that's all, on the 23rd.
Oh, May. But
Isn't that the next potential if we follow this pattern?
I think we mentioned, after you said that the 23rd wasn't possible. Oh, you could do it by Zoom. I'm sorry, is that? what
Right,
you're saying?
after I said that, I was just.
Oh, okay, perfect. I'd rather do that than May 30th, right? Just before Memorial Day.
Yeah, that's.
Well, 23rd is before Memorial Day.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
right. It's the 27th.
I think that's why I'm unsure.
Yeah,
So the 23rd May works?
I'm amenable to that.
Okay,
So regularly moving forward, the 4th Thursdays.
thank you, yes. Are there any questions?
Gary, I'll work on just a list of the ones that I know. I haven't worked with a ton myself, I've just been picking up names.
Sure.
So I'll work on that list. Will you work on that scoping idea to share with everyone, or just?
Yeah.
Crystal just described?
Yeah, although as she pointed out, that will be more informed after we have a couple of conversations, but yes, we
No,
want.
I think what she was saying, is you bring that is part of what you put down your initial thoughts, maybe you refine it once you bid for them. But
Sure. I can do
I
that.
think it should get started.
Okay. Anything else?
Did you guys have a relationship with anyone in Ithaca when you were working through?
Yeah, and I passed the contact information over to Jason, but I can share that with the rest of the board.
Yeah, sure, and I just love to do a cursory reach out and get there.
As we have seen there, I'm not sure if they've hired a new project manager yet, but there are other people involved.
Okay,
I can be contacted.
thanks, Michael.
So I guess evidently they do feel like it's a full-time job.
Yes, Ithaca, although Ithaca is quite a bit larger than us geographically.
What's
Yeah,
the
they're-
population?
There's 6 square miles, 30,000 people.
Yeah.
And better funded.
Okay,
They still fight the same winter problems that we have.
Right.
here, those for construction
Mhm.
purposes. So yeah, I still like to know what they.
I mean, I feel like the winter time is when they're preparing for the rest of the year in terms of budgeting and putting out bids and
And
all
you
of that.
know, you can do concrete work, flat work in the winter if you have blankets and.
They did it this year.
this year was a mild year for
Yeah.
construction in general, but we also have a lot of administrative work, et cetera, so eventually, this could be.
Yeah.
Ideally an ADA and SID, project manager.
And potentially grant administration too for related grant work.
And I'm sorry, I know you guys enunciated this, but when do the bills go out to everybody for their assessment? Not till 25?
Well, that's another thing that we need to work on. That's what Dave was
Yeah. to your-
suggesting, that it's the list of parcels needs to start being worked on. To get at, Michael's done some estimates of what the assessment will add up to. But, yeah, we will have to create that, and that's the problem, is there's a deadline that's in May to get on the 2025 bills.
May of this year to get, And so does that mean we have to sit and manually look at and calculate the frontage and the square footage?
For the commercial properties, so the, R1, R2, R3 are a set fee. The commercial properties are based on square footage, I believe of the building, not the property,
Mhm.
Right,
and the linear feet of site.
right. And it will,
So someone has to do that, yes,
so.
like
Is
500
there any way
commercial
that we
properties.
can automate that?
Well, we could use can't we use the Columbia County parcel map for the city?
I don't
Yes.
know if they have the frontage.
I
data.
tried, they have a measuring tool, so you can measure.
Yeah, I
Um,
was trying to muck with it a little bit. I might have been really hacking it, but
yeah, I felt you could do it,
yeah, I
cause
thought,
it's a plus or minus too, it's like every 55 feet is worth so
Right.
much, so,
Mhm.
right,
you don't have to be, I don't think, super accurate.
right.
So now I'm scared. May what do we have to have this done by?
Well, now.
Well, we don't, we're
not
we're pretty much
aiming for
accepting it's
2025.
not.
Oh, I thought it was, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So this is from the, I forget what it's called. Comprehensive report, or comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
Says commercial parcels, 438. So we have to do that for 438 parcels. At least.
Okay.
Dave's.
And you were-
already on it.
And you were saying, you were, that's the fun part, right? You were saying the ballpark 2,500 for R1 to R3.
Oh, no, all total parcels in the,
Okay, so that's minus the 438, that delta's.
yeah, and minus the 100 and something
Yeah.
exempted, and then.
Yeah,
There's others situations, so it's a little bit. Would have been nice if everyone was just $100, to be honest with you, but.
Yeah.
yeah,
It is not.
well, and even if, yeah, that's neither here nor there, we
But
can
it's just work,
address that further, but.
Yeah.
it's just,
And down the road, application for exemption and all of
Right,
that.
yeah.
oh yeah, we have to, probably someone in this
Do the
group,
appeals.
or the person we
Yeah.
hire has to create a form for the firefighters to apply for exemptions and.
And that.
This is the meat and potatoes of that job function, really,
Mhm.
right? Like, we need to codify all of
It's as
this.
much as that.
Yep.
Yes, I really do think of this in terms of administrative,
So
Project
the administrative takes place during the slack months and
Yeah.
work, yeah. Well, that's sweet.
and that would be something that I think we could take in, but you know what? We could worry about that after we get this launched. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Is this your last meeting?
Yeah, actually.
Oh, so
Yeah.
lose you, man. Don't-
Me too.
But I'm happy you get to move on to something that.
Not that he wasn't passionate about what he was doing.
Good night, everyone.